Right now, today, if you have any pending immigration paperwork, an expired visa, or even a work permit that's still technically valid, booking a domestic flight in America could get you detained before you even reach the gate. This isn't a warning about some distant future policy. This is happening right now, this week, at airports across the country. And if you or someone you love falls into any of those categories, you genuinely need to hear this before your next flight. Not after you're already standing at the counter, wondering why an officer is asking for your documents. Here's exactly what's happening. Immigration and Customs Enforcement has begun arresting foreign nationals directly at airports across the United States. Not at the border, not during a workplace raid, but at check-in counters, at boarding gates, and in arrival terminals. The exact places millions of ordinary travelers pass through every single day without a second thought. Immigration lawyers say this tactic has now shown up at more than a dozen airports, spread across at least 9 states. And all of this has happened in just the past few weeks. That's not a small pilot program quietly being tested somewhere. That's a nationwide shift, and it's moving faster than most people realize. Now here's the part that should genuinely concern you, even if you think you personally have nothing to worry about. According to reporting from the Washington Post, the people being arrested are not who you'd expect. We're not just talking about people with criminal records or final deportation orders hanging over them. We're talking about visa overstayers, yes, but also spouses of U.S. citizens, skilled foreign workers who are simply waiting on a visa extension to process through the system, former exchange visitors, people with pending immigration applications sitting in the pipeline right now, doing everything right, just waiting patiently for their case to move forward like they were told to. Immigration attorneys have gone on record saying that some of the people detained had no criminal record whatsoever, and were holding valid work authorization or parole documents at the exact moment they were stopped. Let that sink in for a second. Valid paperwork, in hand, at the airport, and still detained anyway. So how is ICE actually finding these specific people in the middle of an airport, out of hundreds of thousands of daily travelers passing through security every single day? This is the part that really changes the calculation for anyone flying domestically right now. CNN reported that ICE is cross-referencing Transportation Security Administration traveler data directly against immigration enforcement databases, essentially scanning who's booked on which flights before those travelers even step foot inside the terminal. It's not random. It's not a chance encounter with an officer having a bad day. It's a targeted, data-driven system, built specifically to flag individuals the moment they purchase a ticket and check in online. The Department of Homeland Security has defended this practice publicly, saying the goal is to stop people who are in the country unlawfully from flying domestically, and that anyone flagged this way should instead choose to leave the country voluntarily, what the agency is now calling self-deportation. Here's why this represents such a dramatic shift from how things used to work. In the past, if you were a traveler with a pending case, an expired visa, or some kind of unresolved immigration issue, you generally weren't a priority for detention, unless you'd also committed a separate criminal offense on top of that. Immigration status alone, especially a pending or in-process status, usually wasn't enough on its own to trigger an arrest at something as routine as a domestic flight. That entire understanding is exactly what's being upended right now, in real time. Immigration attorneys say this shift is catching entire families completely off guard, including people who were simply flying for work or heading out to visit relatives for a weekend, doing something as ordinary and unremarkable as thousands of Americans do every single day without thinking twice about it. Before we go further, if this is the kind of update that actually matters to your life or your family's life, do yourself a favor and hit subscribe right now, and turn on notifications, because these enforcement policies are shifting week to week right now, sometimes even faster than the news itself can keep up with, and you genuinely don't want to be caught without the information you need at the moment you need it most. So let's talk about what this actually means for you, practically, starting today. If you have a pending immigration case of any kind, a visa that has expired, or any unresolved status issue sitting in the system, air travel inside the United States now carries a real, tangible layer of risk that simply wasn't there a few months ago. Immigration attorneys are recommending a few concrete steps if this applies to you. First, Talk to a qualified immigration attorney before you book that next flight, even for something as simple and routine as a domestic trip. Second, carry physical proof of your current status with you at all times when you travel, not just a photo saved on your phone, but the actual document itself, if at all possible. And third, keep copies of any work permit, parole document, or filing receipt on hand at all times. Because based on what's being reported, even valid documentation in hand hasn't stopped some people from being detained in these exact situations. And this story isn't happening in isolation either. This airport enforcement expansion is landing right in the middle of a much bigger wave of immigration changes, all hitting at practically the same time. Just days before this story broke, Haiti's temporary protected status officially lapsed on July 27th, after the Supreme Court cleared the legal path for the administration to end it, a change that puts work authorization and legal status at risk for more than 330,000 Haitian nationals. And even now, reports suggest DHS and the courts are still sorting out exactly when those protections actually end in practice. Around that same time, a new interim rule took effect on July 28th that lets USCIS refer certain asylum applications straight to an immigration judge, skipping the standard interview many applicants were expecting and preparing for. Officials say this move is meant to tackle a backlog that has now grown past 1.4 million pending cases. But for the people caught in it, it means the one chance they thought they'd get to explain their situation directly might not come at all. Not everything this week has gone in the direction of tighter enforcement, though, and it's worth knowing that too. In a rare piece of relief in an otherwise tense stretch of news, the First Circuit Court of Appeals denied the government's request to reinstate a controversial $100,000 fee tied to certain H-1B petitions, which means that fee stays blocked for now, at least while the underlying case continues working its way through appeal. And out in California, a federal judge in San Francisco ruled that ICE's practice of arresting people directly at immigration courthouses, along with a related rule that let agents skip standard detention procedures entirely, was unlawful, marking the very first nationwide block on that specific practice anywhere in the country. Put all of that together, and what you're really looking at isn't just one isolated airport policy sitting on its own. It's a pattern. Enforcement is expanding into spaces that used to feel routine and safe. Airports, courthouses, everyday travel. At the exact same time, some legal protections are being stripped away, while others are being upheld or blocked in court, sometimes within the very same single week. The situation is moving fast enough that what's true today could shift again by the time you're watching this video, which is exactly why staying updated matters so much right now, rather than relying on something you heard secondhand a month ago that may not even apply anymore. So here's the bottom line, stated as plainly as I can put it. If you have any kind of pending case, an expired visa, or an unresolved immigration issue of any kind, flying domestically inside the United States right now is not the routine, low-risk activity it used to be, even just a few months back. That doesn't mean don't fly. It means don't fly without a plan. Talk to an attorney first before you book anything. Carry your documentation physically, not just digitally on your phone. And don't assume that because your case is pending, or your paperwork is technically valid, that you're automatically safe standing at that gate. Because based on everything being reported right now, that old assumption simply isn't holding up in practice anymore. Before you go, if this video helped you understand what's actually happening right now, make sure you've hit subscribe and turned on notifications, because we are going to keep tracking this story closely, whether this policy expands to even more airports, whether any court steps in to challenge it, and what DHS says next as the pressure builds. When enforcement policy is shifting this fast, week to week, waiting around for the news to catch up simply isn't good enough anymore. Thanks so much for watching. Stay informed, stay prepared, and take care of yourself and your family.